Hello guys, what's up? It's June and I'm back with a friend actually. Welcome Aaron to the channel. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, my name's Aaron. I've played competitive Yu-Gi-Oh for a very long time, and I just got into Riftbound in beginning of set one. Love the game, and I'm excited for set two in Vegas in the near future.
All right, great. And today we actually did a great practice for Las Vegas and also Bologna for myself. We went ahead and did a match of Spiritforged, post Spiritforged, and we played Azir on my part versus Draven on Aaron's part. Um, I'll just jump right into the list. So I was playing Azir and it was a very basic spam equipments and try to control the board a bit with spells and eventually get around to Arise. And Arise is basically the bread and butter of this deck. You want to make at least like 4 Sand Soldiers and swarm the board. Hope that it's enough and yeah, see where it gets you. Um, Aaron, what did you play?
I was on Draven. I think he's gonna like integrate the list right here. But yeah, I think it's a pretty normal Draven list. I'm maining Thunder Song right now because that seems to be the meta of the online, which I've been playing a lot of the Runes and Rifts Range Ladder. There's a lot of Draven in the meta. That card is fantastic into turning off switcheroos and fighter flights and all the really good spells. Other than that, I think it's like relatively normal. I'm adding Falling Star for some more removal. I've seen people going back and forth between Falling Star, Piercing Light, and whatever else. Otherwise, nothing I think crazy out of the ordinary. Like I think Hard Bargain's a good card. It's currently in the main deck. Side deck is Thermal Beam. I think that card's still very important. Obviously, it's great in the Azir matchup, but in general, you kind of need it for like the difficult matchups like Ornn, and it's not bad against Aurelia. So primary reasons for that card in there. But yeah, those are the most like the think the most relevant cards in the matchup, and yeah, I think we'll just kind of hop into the gameplay and go over the interactions.
Makes sense, makes sense. All right. So we saw me win a die roll. In this matchup, I think if Draven gets to start, Azir's already in a very tough spot. I think if Draven can start with Treasure Hoarder, which is like one of the best cards from whole Spirit Forge, it's
Yeah.
already very hard for Azir to do anything really. And Azir really needs that one drop equipment, which I did have luckily. Um, yeah, let's just jump a little bit forward. At this point, I was still figuring out TCG Arena, which is a great application, but yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's a little. I mean, I enjoy the manual simulators. I was like kind of annoying to work with in the beginning, but in
Yeah,
general, I
yeah.
think it's the best way to practice in person if you're going to play online. Obviously,
And here we see
automated
a
has its benefits,
treasure
but
hoarder.
in
Yeah,
general, it's worth it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what's your first thoughts on Draven?
I mean, there's a reason why it is performing as well as it is in China, and why I think it's perceived as just like a tier zero deck. I don't think it's gonna like just stomp the format and be the only deck that's viable, but it is a very strong deck. It has a lot of like the red purple color combination in terms of card quality in the meta. It is the strongest by far. Like those are just the two best colors. Purple will just receive so many good tools, has so
Yeah,
many different
yeah, yeah.
options, and like you just get to draw all of them consistently because of your leader, which for some reason wasn't given a restriction. So
Yeah, yeah.
until that or if that ever gets changed, it's going to be, I'd say like a staple for the foreseeable future, not just a set two dominant deck, but until if unless that ever gets eroded, I could see it being a top three deck for as long as it's in rotation.
Makes sense. I was at some point also considering maybe they errata how combat works exactly, or how combat works for the
Yeah, yeah,
Draven leader, because or the Draven legend. I think just being able to fight or flight at any point, giving you a card draw, that is what's the most important part of what makes Draven so strong. Um,
yeah,
and not
for
just
sure.
in this matchup. I think in every matchup, it's just such a common thing to happen.
Hmm.
So here we
So yeah, we've
see.
got a bunch of sand soldiers on your end.
Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
it wasn't actually a bad start for me at all. I had an equipment every turn. But yeah, my units aren't small, but they just don't give any advantage that Treasure Hoarder and Draven
mhm.
do obviously give. And besides that, while I did have some cards to control the board, Hidden Blade, Call the Weak. You don't want to miss out on making a Sand Soldier if that means that you are able to use a Discipline or a Hidden Blade or whatever. If you don't get to
Hmm.
play an equipment, it feels like you are behind. It feels like you are
Yeah.
actually worsening your spot, even if you are investing in the board state. So that was one of the thoughts I had on Azir after this game. I felt like Azir could have potential, but it felt like everything needed to go exactly right. If you didn't spit out an equipment every turn and also was able to impact the board state in some other way, you were just losing tempo. You were losing advantage in the game state.
Yeah. Also on Reavers, I think Draven is just like this. There, I don't think there's been a better combination of leader plus battlefield. I mean, obviously there's like some specific, but like generic, very good. Like any deck that like Reavers is going to be out of the meta unless you're playing Draven because of how good Draven is on it. Like you just are able to select only the combats that you want to win. And now when you're on the defense, like if you ever use that ability, like Draven gets to draw, and in my situation when I have the champion unit out, get to generate gold. So I've got 5 gold and 7 mana. Like
Yeah,
I'm gonna be at 12 mana whenever I feel like. I'm never paying power. My Draven Vanquisher is going to pay 2 every time that there's a combat. Like I'm never losing a combat for the rest of the game. And they're just like
yeah.
nothing that you can really do to mitigate that as easier.
It felt very oppressive, especially because if I choose to move back from Reaver's Row, you actually win the combat because the combat was started, right?
Yeah.
So you get to draw a
Yes,
card for
which is
free.
very
So
silly.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's such a great opportunity. Yeah, right here I was just all right, get a draw out of the Sacred Shears, but even that feels very bad because you also get the draw for actually winning the combat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I have a Sacred Shears on my leader, so like I'm not
Yeah,
paying anything for it, which is
exactly. Yeah,
really
it's
convenient. Yeah, I'm like looking at my hand right now. I've got whatever 8 cards, and on my side it's got Hard Bargain, it's got removal, I've got Fight or Flight, I've got a Spinning Axe, like I've got Darius, like
yeah,
I have the entire world at my fingertips, and I've already got a board developed. Like there's just so little
exactly.
that Azir can do, like to regain control of the board. Like even if you dropped like in a Rise here, I can just like
Yeah,
Reavers row back my Draven. I can what do I have there? I think it's a switcheroo set. So I'm gonna like force the combat. You have to like hidden blade it to win. Um
giving you
and
even
if I'm
more
ever
card
able to get you
advantage.
off of like that odd point curve. Yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna get you off of the odd if I can get you into the odd point curve and then be a
Yeah,
turn ahead and
yeah,
just win
yeah.
the game off of that. So
Yeah, initially I thought Azir would have been very strong into Draven because you were able to like move your Sand Soldiers with the Azir, the leader, the chosen champion, which is a
yeah,
great card for
yeah.
any token deck, obviously. Um, but Fight or Flight makes it so that even if you have a whole army of tokens and you want to move them from one battlefield to the other, you're in a weird spot where if they actually do manage to Fight or Flight, you don't get to move your tokens to that battlefield. It actually basically fizzles. You get to move
Yeah,
back to your
overzealous fan
base.
as well. Like there's just so many
Yeah,
ways to
yeah.
prevent that from happening in Draven.
So
Um
even while I'm developing
yeah,
quite the board, I don't feel like I'm in any state to be to be on the offense. It feels like I need to really slow things down, try to get some value out of the removal spells. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, the
hidden
issue is I'm
blading.
at 5 points and like you just don't have that luxury.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And the fact that
So
you
yeah, I
can
just
make
have
so many
whatever.
gold tokens, you don't have to pay for any power. Basically, this entire game gives you
Yeah.
so many options. So Draven just has it all. It has a lot of energy to its disposal because you generate so many golds, especially if you open with Treasure Hoarder. You get so many cards because you
Yeah.
keep drawing off of the leader. And just the card quality in Draven isn't bad either. It's actually really strong. You have Darius Trifarian, Kaiser Survivor. The new Draven is also quite strong. So yeah, here I try to actually save this combat by using Discipline. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. You have so many options here to just win the combat anyway. So here I choose to
Yeah,
discipline
like
the
I still have fight or flight and hard bargain in hand, which I just
right, yeah,
well, I would have hard bargained if you hidden bladed and done whatever. Like it's just
right.
so difficult to win from your shoes. Yeah.
So
So this
even
game is
yeah, this game is
watched from my perspective. Like
basically over.
yeah. So one thing you did bring up was the yellow chosen champion. I'm actually kind of a fan of the green one. It is a pretty unique effect that is really interesting and difficult to interact with. Um, and I also think it's one of the like your list plays Guardian Angel, which I don't think I've seen every list play just because it doesn't really combo with like your chosen chain or the Sandstorm is
Yeah,
the best. But if you're playing GA, I think like the green chosen champion is probably like the best way to take advantage of that because that card is really oppressive as like a battle trick, and especially when you have GA on it, like it becomes a seven, so you can't singularity it, you can't like Riptide Rex, like whatever kind of like removal that is common in the format. Like I think that's definitely something if I was gonna play Azir, I would look into. I think it's very interesting.
yeah. The thought process was I want to get as many gear equipments in my deck as possible. And the whole idea was that Arise plus Azir is yeah. I mean the yellow Azir on itself might not be the best card, but the whole plan of this deck is to make as many tokens as you can. And if your opponent is not playing purple, they pretty much have very little response to me moving with an Azir to somewhere after I've moved elsewhere. Like conquering one battlefield with all of my tokens and then moving the Azir by itself, taking with him all the tokens. That was the game plan. It might need some tuning. But I do think there's like I don't know, I haven't really liked the green Azir as much because sure with like a GA it would be quite safe, but the fact that it doesn't have accelerate and it doesn't impact your own board right away, except if you are already like in the position where you have a good attack with the Azir, felt iffy. I don't know if you agree on that point.
Yeah, I mean, Azir is not a deck I've spent the most time with. I kind of like the concept of it because I like Victor in set one. Unfortunately, it is not as good as I had hoped, but
Yeah,
um, this is probably like the token generation deck of the next set.
yeah, yeah.
So I may take up getting a look at it at some point. My biggest gripe with it is just this color combination is I think overall a little bit weak. Order is, I think, probably one of the weakest as of right now.
Yeah,
And from there, like, there's not too much you can do to fix it. Like, you're gonna struggle with card economy. Like, there isn't really anything in either of these colors to fix it. Like, even a card like Shears doesn't really
yeah,
like
and
fix that.
here
And
we
yeah,
see
you
how
don't have like the most
oppressive.
options to like push through.
Here we see how oppressive those overzealous fans are, because if I attack with both, and I mean, you definitely have cards to interact with the attack. So I try to do the small attacks that you get the draw, and then I still have my Azir ready so that after I make extra tokens with the Desert's Call, I can conquer the battlefield. I opted to go for Cold Week because I knew you were going to try to win the game next turn. You're at 7 points, so I need to at least clear the battlefield and also try to get rid of some of your own cards, like in your base, Darius and the Treasure Hoarder. And here we see the Hard
Hmm.
Bargain be so oppressive. Yeah, that Hard Bargain was backbreaking. Well, actually, I
Yeah.
didn't really like Hard Bargain at the start of theorizing Spiritforged. I felt like the card is great, especially in purple, but the times where it just didn't wasn't good enough was I don't know. It's hard to explain. It felt like if your opponent just goes
It's kind of a
Falling
win more card.
Star,
I won't argue
yeah.
that.
All right.
Like you are generally sacrificing like mana for tempo, and that is only really a sacrifice you want to make when you're ahead. Like when you're opening Hunter, have a lot of power and rotation. So like I won't argue that it's like a little bit win more, but I do think there are spots where like there are key spells, especially when you're on offense, Like using it when you're on defense is pretty rare. I would say unless like you just already like that is when it is the most fun more is like you just developed a big board. You didn't have to play any units a turn, so you just like keep your hand open for hard bargain and battle tricks.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but when you're on offense and like your opponent has maybe some hiddens, you're playing against maybe like an Aurelia deck and they don't have as much mana up because they had to develop that turn. That's when like I think the hard bargain is the strongest is when you're playing into a board and you're able to guarantee push something through that was important to winning the combat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I felt like it's mostly a counterspell for your own turn.
Hmm.
But once you get to the very later game, two energy isn't anything to write home about.
Yeah,
And
it's yeah, like if you were leaving it up late game as a defensive spell, it's always for four. Like, and
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
generally you get to the point you've gotten some gold off of Draven, so you're at like let's say like a 10 mana turn. You spend four on your turn to try and win a combat or just like develop another guy, and then you're like, okay, I've got six open for a hard bargain and like a spinning axe or a fight or flight or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Here I was actually kind of impressed by Azir's combo with the Eye of the Herald, especially when you have Trifarian Warcamp. You just spam tokens like crazy. Like I basically can hold this Warcamp and just switch my Sand Soldiers, making even more tokens all the time. Um, yeah, I did like this a lot. And last turn we saw the Cold a Week on turn 2 already for the Treasure Hoarder. Just because the gold generation of Treasure Hoarder is so immensely important for Draven, you have quite some power to pay with some cards, like either with hiding, using cards like Darius Trifarian, Kaiser Survivor. Most of the time, you do want to use the power for them. Like Kaiser Survivor feels like it's almost always an accelerated card. Just the surprise is very important. And here we see the recruits just
Hmm.
being spammed out. Yeah, I like this a lot.
Yeah, like war camp isn't something I've seen on too many victors or not victors, sorry, Azirs. I've seen it in a lot of victors. And in this situation where you're able to open double of the I forgot the Eye of whatever.
Yeah, I have a
That one
Herald. Yeah,
this game felt like so difficult for me to break through.
yeah, yeah.
Because I've been able as Draven to kind of like break through some like surprisingly big board just with like Darius and my list doesn't actually play any of the one drop assault spells like Blood Rush
Okay.
or Cleave. It used to, but like when you're just because it's so rare for combats to actually resolve in like battle for battle, it's like only spinning axe at this point. But yeah, like I was able to break through boards between like switcherooing efficiently and fight or flighting big units and just like crashing into Darius, and then okay, now I'll send in like my other unit as a follow up. But yeah, like you got so wide at some point in this game. I think it's around like your 5 point turn where there's just literally nothing I can do with like you also like withdrew correctly, and I'm like, okay, I can't set up 24 might on defense. That's just impossible to
Yeah, yeah,
defend from.
yeah. And here we see you also go on the defense. I did have two energy open, but it was actually just
Mhm.
a salvage. And that's the thing with Azir as well. You don't want to play the brutalizer as well. You want to just play one equipment a turn, not more, not less. If it's more or less, it's you're losing card advantage in the game. You're just your
Yeah.
leader, your legend is not doing anything for the card that you played. So yeah,
Hmm.
here the game plan is just to hold the Warcamp. We have Windwall up, we have Salvage up, and the Salvage is here just for the spinning axe. And if you were playing it, the longsword as well. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, spinning axe is. I mean, you just made the comparison: spinning axe versus cleave. Spinning axe is basically a permanent cleave. It's
Yeah,
much better.
Spinning Axe is one of the best signature cards I've read. When I
Yes.
first read it, I was like, why is this card so good? And then I realized that it's like permanent and it's a reaction, so you get to play around removal.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's 3/2, which matters a lot in like some certain spots. Like Kaisa now survives double Falling Star when if that's a longsword, it doesn't. So that's just like super impactful.
Yeah.
And it only
Yeah. Yeah.
costs one power. Like it's just such an oppressive card, and you can use it aggressively on offense. And you just like keep reattaching it because it has to temporary at the start of your turn. So very very good card. One of like the defining. characteristics of Draven and why the removal is like so difficult to stick against them.
Yeah. This wind wall was actually something I really had to think about, because just wind walling a falling star, I mean, it's not great. It's not the greatest. Here
Mm-hmm.
you're just opting to trade because you couldn't get rid of the battlefield with the falling star, which makes sense.
Yeah.
You're behind a lot in terms of points. And you didn't know it, of course, but I did have the Arise, which is the ultimate decider why I used the Wind Wall kind of aggressively. I knew I was
Yeah.
rebuilding my board again, so I just wanted to hold this. I'm at 5, you're at 1. Even if I just keep holding this Trifarian War Camp until the end of the game, I should be in the winning position. I don't really
Mm-hmm.
even need to care too much about the other battlefield. And if you actually don't reinforce the Power Nexus battlefield, and I can easily just take control of it with the Azir having Accelerate, that's when I actually can win the game at that point. So here I feel like in a great position. I actually opt to just generate even more tokens, make another Eye of the Herald, just so my Arise gets even stronger. Um. Oh, I just no, I just I didn't play the Eye of the Herald. I just floated the mana, which floated an energy, which makes more sense.
Yeah.
I was about to say I don't think
For
it's
sure.
quite correct, but no, I do like the way I played this, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I put 2 Sand Soldiers in my base. They have Weapon Master, so I can just put them underneath the readied Sand Soldiers, move them into the Trifarian War Camp, so they generate even more tokens. At this point, there's like, what, 20, 25 power or something on the Trifarian War Camp?
5, 5, 2. So you have 12 points from War Camp alone.
Yeah, yeah.
So 12, 24, and then it's like I think 30 might on that.
Yeah, so
And theoretically, if it's just like because like if it's just like a set, I can just fight or flight that, right? But this is not a set. It is 12 units, so it's
yes.
just not something I can efficiently break through.
And it feels like if you want to combat the way Draven plays, you want to swarm the board. You don't want to have just 1 or 2
Yeah.
units at a battlefield, because that's when those fight or flights, cards like Rebuke, cards like Spinning Axe, that's when they actually pop off. When it's these close combats and you can just use one card to win the combat, and then out of winning the combat you even get another card. That's when the Draven really pops off.
It is definitely rough for me. Yeah, I mean, this game's just effectively over.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
you're
it's
at
just
6, and then you play correctly, and you withdraw everything, so I can't just like crash my board into it, and like
right.
maybe try and
Yeah,
tease
yeah, yeah.
a win. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and from
just
this point, it's just don't take any risks. You're at 2 points. You're very far away from the 8 points, and I'm already at 6. I just need to
yeah,
play safe. Don't make any mistakes. Don't fall into any traps that could be there. There's a hidden card on the Overzealous Fan. Uh, I mean, it could be a switcheroo. It could be a fight or flight. Um, I mean, between those two, I probably could aim to swing with 2 units, like with the Azir and. Let me think about that. I mean, if I swing with the Azir, I mean, I cannot swing with Azir and another token because everything is at the war camp, right? So it needs to be Azir,
mhm.
and the trigger needs to bring more tokens, which is actually where fight or flight could matter a lot, because you can react with the fight or flight to the trigger of the
Mhm.
Azir and push it back.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
can
get
just play
to.
slow here, right? You can just like
Yeah,
withdraw everything, and then you have two different options. You can like either full send everything back into War Camp next turn,
yeah,
and just
yeah,
like hold that for one more turn, or you can like put one on War Camp because I can't like full send to War Camp thinking I'm gonna hold it against 20 units.
yeah, yeah.
And then at that point you can just full send out of the Power Nexus. So like
Here the idea
I'm just too far
was.
behind this
Here the
work.
idea was I can either try to go to both battlefields, just win on the spot because I have so many units And I do have the Azir still in my chosen champion zone, so I can just full send
Mhm.
all of my tokens to the war camp, for example, and then just play the Azir accelerated, which is why I chose that card as my chosen champion. But here we just draw the Rise, so that makes everything
Makes life
even
very simple.
safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are at 4 points. You're not gonna be able to win the game even with the Power Nexus trigger.
Yeah.
So I can just chill for one more turn and just play a Rise. Have, I mean, probably close to 40 or even more might if I go to the War Camp. But yeah, if I play a Rise, next turn I will also still have the Azir Sovereign play that I just talked about. That's just the least risk taken. And I remember
Yeah,
when
that's
we
this is
played
one of the
this.
big matchups for. Sorry.
Yeah, when we played this, I remember thinking, okay, these cards are both either fight or flight or switcheroo. But
Mhm.
it's kind of a game of chicken because if it's the switcheroo, I can just safely go with everything. Um, or with like the Azir Sovereign. If it's the switcheroo, I can just go
Yeah.
with the Azir Sovereign to move every other token as well. But if it's not the switcheroo, if it's a fight or flight, the Azir Sovereign is actually not a great play to go for. So I was in this train of thought where okay, I could go for the win right now. You have infinite energy open, however, or and I eventually do go for the Arise. I believe just play it slow and go for the Arise.
And at that point, I pack it up.
Yeah,
That would
yeah,
have been like a key hard bargain spot from my perspective, but like this was one of like the best times for it to be used on defenses in that position. I'm pretty confident I still lose, but
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
lot closer than it looks. Like you have to full send onto Power Nexus probably.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then I can try to crack through. I don't think I can, but I can try. Um,
Makes sense. Yeah.
so I would ideally trade off some amount of units and get back in there. So yeah, game three. Targons versus Fluffed, or right? Yeah, the
It's
orange
it's
one, Orange Forge.
Orangeforge. Yeah, yeah. And Orangeforge, I
Yeah,
was actually the least
and
confident about in this matchup because making your access actually cheaper, not a great thing.
yeah,
Not a
yeah.
great
I was
thing
about to
at
say
all.
like I really enjoy like obviously Ornn on this battlefield is way stronger than some other decks. But like when I'm playing against a Lucian or an Azir, I'm like, okay, this is a battlefield that I'm really happy to be on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we just start off quite simply with Brutalize. And here we talked about in game one. You start with Treasure Hoarder. Oh, it's just Over the Zealous Fan. Okay, but if this was a Treasure Hoarder,
Yeah.
I'm in such a bad position already. Luckily for me, it's just an
Well,
Over the
it's
Zealous Fan. But
I mean, yes, but also like when I'm not on Reavers, a Hunter is substantially less oppressive. Like your deck doesn't really have removal outside of Hidden Blade, so when
yeah,
I'm on Reavers, you can't out that Hoarder Treasure Hunter like ever.
yeah,
But in
yeah,
this
yeah.
situation, you are able to like force combat, or I have to use cards to defend it, or like fight or flight it back. So definitely a very different dynamic than game one on Reavers, where if I open Hunter, like it's almost an auto win.
Yeah, yeah. However, Targon's Peak giving you the opportunity to fight or flight this back. I mean, here I did have the defy for it, but just fight or flighting my Sand Soldier trying to get a point is actually very worth it if you already had the 2 energy for the Targon's Peak. Getting a draw out of it as well, it feels like a great trade off.
Hmm. Yeah, and here I'm looking at my hand. It's like not bad. Um, got a Kaisa, Falling Star, Axe,
Yeah,
and a Gust. So I've got options. But in general, when especially when they open Brutalizer, I want to like try and leave it on the board, or like leave it attached to the unit so that I get to like minimize the impact of it. I think accelerating the Kaisa here is probably a bit excessive. Because I know your deck plays Cold a week and whatever, and my hand's like also like not like the best, but. I figured I just like needed to get deeper into my deck, and drawing two off of Kai'Sa was probably the best way to do that.
yeah.
So
If I
I don't
go
love the play in
back a
hindsight, but
little,
I think it ends up working.
in hindsight, I actually don't agree with my play here, where I went so the whole last turn, where I went, okay,
Hmm.
I have Defy for a fight or flight. I can move in to kill the Overzealous Fen. Um, I think the Overzealous Fen was probably not that big of a deal. I could have just went in to the Orange Forge, make a gear cheaper. Don't have to play the Azir Sovereign, and I I just hate to have played into the Kaiser Survivor accelerated so hard, because
Hmm.
after it happened, after I went for the Hidden Blade on the Draven Vanquisher, I had no energy left. You were able to just play out whatever you wanted, and you went in with the Kaiser Survivor Accelerated, getting 2 draws out of it, readying 2 runes.
Hmm.
Feels like I played into that quite hard. While I could have
Yeah,
also probably just went for the Orange
like also like you're
Forge.
letting me go up. Like if you play the other line, which I think I would agree with, like you just want to get more gears down. You want to be using your leader power every turn. It's why
Yeah,
the Victor deck is so strong, right? Is you just are able to generate tokens for free and weave it in so efficiently. Um, because yeah, like now we're looking at this spot where you're down at a fire, down a hidden blade, and I still wiped your board.
yes.
And you only have 3 cards, and from there, like now you're turns behind of developing units. Um, but when if you had done the other line where you go gear, um, leader ability, and then like my Targon's Peak, I either fight or flight for no value or quote unquote no value, or I just like conquered for no apparent reason. And then you still have that hidden blade as well. You also get to keep your defy for something that I may have in the future. So I think I understand wanting to be aggressive because like if Draven just gets to like sit there and do it at once, you're in a pretty tough position. And like I was pretty unhappy with how the turn played out, but at the same time I was like, okay, he's only at 1 point. He used a lot of cards and he defied,
Yeah, yeah.
which is a card that I enjoy not having to deal with in the future. So I can't complain too much with how it all shaped out.
Yeah, yeah. I probably so the trap is, if I go for the other play, I don't utilize a lot of energy. I leave a lot of energy open. Uh, Basically, if I go for the Orange Forge, I would play Guardian's Angel and the Azir. I would have, I believe, 3 energy unused. Could be a Defy, could be a Hidden Blade, right? But those are most likely in that scenario not really gonna be used. I could go for the Hidden Blade on the Draven, but probably I would need to be in a position where I just accept losing that combat, which is a bad thing against Draven, obviously. But yeah, just from the start, it felt like a hard position, a hard position to play. I guess this line was the most greedy, where if you don't have the Kaiser Survivor and just need to develop your board again, I would be in a very happy position. I would be fine. But yeah, walking
Hmm.
in into that Kaiser Survivor, that felt disastrous. And here we see, like, okay, I could make just a token used to call the weak to get rid of the Kaiser Survivor. I don't want to actually enter combat against Kaiser Survivor when you have 3 energy open. There's so many cards that you could have that, I mean, leave me losing combat. Yeah, here I messed up with the controls again. So yeah, I go for Guardian Angel, Call the Weak, and then just go for that. Go for the Targon Speak, untap 2 runes. I don't have anything, but this is just basically playing bluff. Okay, I could still have a discipline. I could still have a hidden blade, and here you opt for a slower turn, just rebuilding resources, and you're definitely in a situation where you can. You have still 7 cards in hand.
Yeah, having to hidden blade me as the Draven player is definitely feels bad man moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because my hand originally was not super impactful. It was like a lot of spells and stuff. Like the Cold Week would have like wiped my last unit. Um, but because you were forced to hidden blade me, and I drew into some more units that allowed me to develop. Like that is why the Victor deck we've seen gain some popularity with removal is so strong. Because the Draven deck has somewhat been cutting down on units, just because it's so easy for you to win combats and keep them alive. So whenever you just remove all of them through like hard removal, it's not as big of a deal.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, now we get to see what Draven does with a lot of options. Cold Week's not going to be as impactful. And I'm just going to like kind of utilize all of these new cards to advantage with removal and combat tricks to keep me up. And
Yeah, and in this spot, it just feels like it doesn't really matter what I draw. I don't think there are any good outs here, and especially I do like the overzealous
uh,
fan here.
yeah,
Overzealous fan is
yeah.
is,
So you're at
is
three. Like a Rise is not that bad, but it's obviously not fantastic either. Because like if
yeah.
I have a hard bargain, I think you're at eight.
Oh,
So
I'm
if
at
you're,
an
it's
eight. I'm
not
at eight.
okay. So yeah, it's not bad, but it obviously doesn't use your whole turn. Um, so
Yeah, the thing is though,
we.
if I go for hard bargain, I make two Sand Soldiers. It
Mhm.
feels underwhelming to say the least, especially if you do have three
Yeah,
energy
yeah, for
open.
sure.
So while I could go for, let's say I draw the Arise, I play the Arise, make two Sun Soldiers ready, I go conquer Targon's Peak, then I move the Azir to the other battlefield and move all the tokens with me. It might still not be a guaranteed victory on that combat, because you're at 6. You can actually. Oh, the whole thing is also the overzealous fan is just going to move back the Azir, so I cannot even go for that like greedy line if I would have the Arise, where I go Azir into the Orange Forge, move all the tokens with me. I do think I still try it because I do want to open myself up to drawing an Arise next turn, because it feels like that's the only out that is gonna matter. I think all
Mhm.
other cards are just dead draws at this point. Yeah, and how this works is I start with the attack trigger, and you go on top of it on the chain with your defend
Yeah.
trigger. So your defend trigger may resolve first, and yeah, I'm just left
Well,
here
I
with.
think if I remember correctly, it goes like defense trigger is first. So before Azir would even activate, it is my overzealous fan like moving it back.
Yeah. So basically, you start a chain with the attack triggers, and then on top of that, the defense triggers go on the chain, and then you resolve it last in first out, right?
Oh, okay, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, and at this point, it's already too much for me to handle. I could try to hit him later, but giving you even more cards at this point is just going to be a death sentence. We're both at 4 points, so it might look like we are. I'm not that behind, but actually I am just so far behind. I feel like my only option here is to hidden blade my own unit with sacred shares just to get 3 draws. Hope to get, I don't know, maybe 3 Arise. That would be nice. Just spam Arise every turn and hope for the best. But no, even that probably won't be enough.
And you got three equipments, and that's kind of
Yeah,
the issue with this deck, right? Is outside of there's like what removal do you have to break through this? Like you have Cold Week, but now that I'm a little wider on the board, it's pretty difficult for you to crack through. And like even if you
yes,
drew a Rise off this, like you still have to wait a turn to develop everything. Like it's
right.
just
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
too
And the Falling
difficult
Star
to
on the
come back
Azir
on them.
Sovereign is just the final nail in the coffin. And here, I mean, we're
Yeah.
just playing it out, but I would have already scooped if this was a real match.
Yeah.
IRL. Yeah, and I do actually draw the Arise, but yeah, making 3 units, 3 Sand Soldiers, it's not gonna matter too much. And I don't even know if okay, so it does resolve. You don't have the hard bargain, but even
You
then,
had your no thermal beams at all, but luckily
yeah.
still able to pull it out.
A Thermal Beam, of course, is also one of those reasons why Red in general is having a good time in Spiritforged. All of the gear
Yeah.
decks just don't really have a say when you face a Thermal Beam.
Hmm. A lot of value in them, but also a lot of downside if you invest into them and they get wiped.
Yeah. And yeah, here we see there's just no options anymore. There's just too much going on the board. I can try to conquer, but you probably still have interactive spells. And the issue with Azir is just like I said, having multiple gears, multiple equipments in your hand in the later stage of the game doesn't actually mean you get to play them all out. Like in other decks, if you
Hmm.
would suddenly have a draw 3 and you already have like 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever energy open to your turn, you can just start spamming your cards. You can and throw down all of your cards that are going to be impactful, and multiple cards usually mean a bigger board. In Azir, I don't really want to make. I don't really want to play multiple equipments in a single turn, because it's not going to impact the
Hmm.
game as much. I just want to make one Sand Soldier a turn, and that's it. But yeah, here, I mean, we see there's just not that much I can do against the Kaiser Survivor and the Noxus Hopeful with the Spinning Axe. Get another draw, another gear. It's not going to be end up mattering. All right. The final stage of the game is basically us playing it out, but already knowing who is the winner. I do want to say I kind of learned a lot from this match. Initially, I thought Azir had some consistency issues, but if you draw well, you would have a great chance against a deck like Draven, because you kind of spam the board. Less so than Victor, obviously, but you do still have that board spamming. However, it kind of disappointed me in the control spells. Hidden Blade, Cold a Week, Discipline, Defy. They feel a little underwhelming. They give you a lot of room to still come back from those. It's not like a Hidden Blade on a Draven Vanquisher is going to be that hurtful for you. It's going to, yeah, cost you a turn, but Draven really easily rebuilds. Did you have the same insight from this game?
Yeah, the Azir deck kind of struggles to hold. Like Brutalizer's a really good attacking unit. So Draven, even if like you negate with Defy or win a combat or whatever, on my next turn, if I have any type of follow up, I'm just going to be able to like earn my card back. As long as I have the power and runes to play all those cards, then I'm gonna eventually over the course of the game just outvalue you, which is I think one selling point for the green Azir. Just throwing it out there is that helps you defend a little bit easier. Again, it's not like a perfect out, like it's still a difficult matchup, but I think that is one potential way that Azir becomes a little bit stickier and harder to just break through, like interaction wise. Is you Azir, okay, now I have a green Azir on my board. Now I have a brutalizer. It's a 9 defense unit, and now like 9 is just substantially harder to interact with than whatever, like 4 or 5 or wherever you're at, and where my Darius Shafarian can just wipe it over, or Draven plus power can wipe it over. So I think this deck is neat, has some potential, but I think as long as the meta is defined by Draven and Kaisa and Thermo being easily accessible, even if it's not in every list, just like the threat of it being possible is really difficult for Azir to kind of just like be a reliable win con in the meta.
Yeah, it feels like if you want to make Azir work, it would be more of a mid-range Azir than this hyper aggro spam bodies. and go with the Azir Sovereign to push them all. Because it also felt like Azir Sovereign against purple with a hidden card is just a very scary scenario. You don't want it to be pushed back and lose all your value when you invested so much in this final push. So that was
Yeah, and
also
you can have Defy, you can have not so fast, but the tokens are kind of there to be thrown away. So you don't really want to spend too much investing in cards that at the end of the day
yeah,
are
yeah,
tokens that aren't going to provide additional value when they die. So it's kind of a weird paradox. Obviously, like you saw in that last game, like you want to play a lot of gears to make sure you're playing one every turn, but you also got to the point where you drew nothing but gears, so it's a difficult situation to handle.
yeah. Rebuilding is hard in Azir if you are like kicked down. Just playing one gear, one token a turn is not going to be end up mattering that much. All right. Thanks, Aaron, so much for joining us here. If you haven't watched any of Aaron's videos, please do so. Link is in the description. He has some great content for both Riftbound and Yu-Gi-Oh! So if you want to end up learning something for any of those games, do check out Aaron's YouTube. Do you have any final words, Aaron?
No, this is a pleasure. Thank you as always. I just started a new podcast for Riftbound called Summoning Insight Summoner Seal of Insight. That's what it is. I'll have that in my channel description. First episode just went live. I've got some content from online ranked game review. I've got a tier list. So a lot of introductory content if you want to like learn about the game as well. So a lot of stuff to learn, and I'm looking forward to Spiritforged. We'll be talking more about that in the future.
Definitely. All right. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.